Ben Franklin, the founder of our democracy, is quoted as saying, "Beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy, and either write something worth reading or do something worth writing." And while it's unlikely he actually said either of those two things, I am Evo Terra, and this is the Books and Beer Hangout.
I'm Jeff Moriarty, and thank you for joining us in Books and Beer. We have two very special guests today, innovators, nay, pioneers in the digital publishing space, Mr. J.C. Hutchins and Lynette Young. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Hola. Glad you invited us.
So, we're going to start the Books and Beer out with the beer portion of the program. I am working on a Deviant's Dale, personal favorite, which I'd like to. I got mine first. Evo's just a Deviant wannabe. I'm a professional Deviant.
Please. Yes. All right. So I'm pouring mine up because I haven't done that yet. And
wait, are we doing beer reviews?
No, we're not doing beer reviews, but the beer is part of the Books and Beer Hangout, at least for the two of us. It makes things go much wiser. My
drink's empty already. I should have started it later.
Well, that's quite all right. You're nice and mellowed up right now.
That's true.
What was that? Please tell me that wasn't iced tea.
No, it's not. I had forgotten. You know what Pimm's is? I've forgotten everything. Pimm's. My cousin a couple months ago, I went to Chicago, and he's a chef at a really exclusive restaurant out there, and he was took me out drinking, and I'm like, I don't want the regular. So he started getting me all these 1920s pre-Prohibition drinks.
Ooh. And
Pimm's was one of them. And then C.C. Chapman actually mentioned Pimm's the other day, and I went to the liquor store and bought a bottle, and it's half empty now. So, hey.
Right on. And Lynette wins for the first name drop of the evening, C.C. Chapman.
Mm-hmm. Well done.
Well, I can't name drop any of you three because you're already here.
That's true. That is true. Well, listen, it's not just about the beer here, it's about the books. And the reason we invited you two on as our inaugural program is, A, you're old friends of mine. I've enjoyed chatting with you over the years. And I think you both bring an interesting dichotomy to the authorship and the book publishing side of things. Lynette, you're currently, if I understand properly, working on your first book. Mm-hmm. And JC, you're working on your 780th book, or some other large number like that. So let's go ladies first. Lynette, tell us about the book that you're in the process of writing.
I don't want to say it's not that interesting. It's actually on Google Plus for small businesses, so go figure.
Great.
I've always been very enamored with anyone that writes fiction. And I'm not writing fiction. I'm writing a straight-up business book, and we're going to publish it digitally. So that's kind of, but I realize that 99 3/4 of the work is still the same. Whether you go to Dead Tree or, Amazon, Kindle, whatever you're going to do, it dawned on me halfway through the writing process that I'm doing the exact same work for writing digitally. Or publishing digitally. So that's kind of where I am right now. I actually have, years ago I had ideas for fiction books, but I haven't really scratched that out yet. One of these days I will if the time hasn't passed me by. But I guess in my line of work, it's you almost have to publish a book to have any credibility. And now that line between a Dead Tree through a regular traditional publisher and do it yourself and publish through Amazon, it doesn't even really make a difference anymore because people just see you listed in Amazon or see you listed wherever, and then that's all that matters. So I'm kind of right on the tail end of that process myself right now. And then the pimping comes out when I have to start pushing my own book because that's all the same too.
Yeah, the master, I know a lot of authors out there who are very good at pimping their books, but I can't think of any finer than our next guest on the show, Mr. J.C. Hutchins.
The shameless shill.
The pimp daddy of publishing books.
El Pimp Grande.
I will pimp to a corpse, man. I will sell that corpse on my book. These days I'm not pimping my print fiction or my novels, which is probably what I'm best known for, and my distributing content through podcast and other free emerging technologies. But these days I've used the familiarity that I've had with online, with social media, and with storytelling to start a career as a contract or freelance transmedia storyteller, which uses lots of different media to tell cohesive narratives, most often online. And the good news is I actually get paid to do that, and I help cable networks and TV networks and whatnot help promote their shows that way. So it's an interesting way to make a living, I'll tell you that.
Now, JC, I know you're doing that to make a living, and you're doing great stuff. You were one of the early pioneers in transmedia work. You're really known for that out there. But the other side of you, where you started, writing the fiction that you really wanted to tell, these long stories in there, is that still a part of at least you and the writing?
Yeah, totally. Because I got to eat before I indulge in the in my own fun stuff. I am developing story worlds and business plans, often embracing digital publishing. That's going to be happening probably quite soon. In fact, what the hell? Let's just share it with our viewers here. Sure. Is that within I don't know, maybe a month or two, I'll be relaunching my website with an e-commerce section, and in the e-commerce section there's going to be digital books, the books that my fans have been asking for years, the sequels to Seventh Son and some other stuff that I've been working on. So that is the first step that I'm making into the digital fiction space, and I'll continue to do that with a model that I'm keen to pursue probably in the fall of this year.
Cool. So, go ahead, Jeff.
I have a question for you. So when Evo and I talk to people about digital publishing, the most common thing that comes up is just ebook in the Amazon store. That's still the baseline. I even mentioned transmedia, and the eyes glaze over, or they think they heard about it. I seem to know more than the average bear, but I'm sure I know nothing compared to you. How do you define transmedia? What is that?
Well, frankly, the reason why people's eyes are glazing over because either A, they don't know about it, or B, they're probably being fed a line of bullshit by some marketer somewhere, someone who probably isn't using the word the way folks who have been using it more authentically for more than a decade. I'm kind of a newcomer to the space. I've been doing it since 2007. At its simplest, and I think that most practitioners of the art would agree with this, is that it's using multiple media from prose fiction to audio recordings to video to still photography, online experiences that you might experience through a Facebook or Twitter, whatever, games, are all kind of connected and work together. These disparate media work together to tell a cohesive narrative. And that's at its simplest, that's what transmedia storytelling is. And for the first time in storytelling history, we've been able to easily bring consumers to those different media through the ubiquity of the internet, through the technology, through the portability of always online devices. So if it weren't for the web and apps and whatnot, this breakthrough in storytelling wouldn't probably be happening right now.
See, now I'm waiting in 10 years when the nonfiction space starts looking at that. That's what I'm excited, because it'll take them forever to get there. But writing business books, it's exciting to me, especially on a digital platform, to be able to pop in videos, to break out of the page and to offer multimedia contents. But they're so, to me, the nonfiction space is so not ready for that. Where you guys are already there.
Right. Well, we're there because often it's being used as a promotional vehicle to market, an upcoming TV series or, cable miniseries or something, or a movie. So the pockets are deeper there. However, as a nonfiction storyteller myself, I came up as a newspaper man, and I recognized long ago that merging these media, there's no better way to tell stories. So essentially, if you can figure out ways to do it on the cheap, Lynette, and you've got folks like me and other folks out in the space who will help you brainstorm strategies for that, you can be a first mover in that space, and we'll help make you a star.
That is a great offer, and yes, I think we would all rally around that. Yeah. It's all on YouTube. We're good. We've got the whole thing. But at the end of the day, we're still talking about writing, whether we're writing print books, whether we're writing transmedia narratives that a TV show is going to use and how they get sent on Facebook and Twitter and other sorts of things, or whether we're writing a business book that's only going to wind up inside of Amazon.com. We are still writing books. And so I've got a question for you, Lynette. You've done a lot of writing over the years. You're a business consultant. You've done lots of things. The difference between writing as a professional who is in the business world and writing as an author, can you talk about how you're finding that process?
Usually in my past, I'm writing to solve a need or to provide a solution. Really is what it comes down to. And to be completely honest, audio and video is a much more natural medium for me than, well, I started out in audio. I mean, as a podcaster, 04, whatever it was. That's how I actually, knew Chris or JC. So that's kind of that. I mean, I would much rather fire up a microphone than type, to be completely honest. But writing has always been because I need to answer a question. So writing for a book, there are no specific questions put forward to you. So it's a lot of hypothetical type of situations, which I found extremely difficult. And I kind of approach it as if I scripted it out. I did exactly what I would have done had I been writing, say, a fiction book or telling a story. Because I realized, unfortunately, about halfway through the process for me, that just because it's a nonfiction book or a business book or whatever, you can't just drop information and stats. You have to tell a story. You have to be engaging. It has to be interesting. You still have to emotionally hook people. And it was like literally halfway through the process, I was like, duh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I was fighting against it the whole time. Unfortunately, I was up against some crazy deadlines, and I had to kind of backpedal along it, but knowing now what I, should have known then kind of thing. The next book, and I think I've got 2 more scheduled to go, I'll go about it a bit differently, but it's much different for me personally to write when I don't know who the audience is per se. Usually I'm writing, to someone specific.
So I have a question for you on something you said when you earlier on about being a published author. In an earlier Books and Beer hangout, I brought up what does that mean anymore in 2012 to be a published author, with little quote marks there, and a fist fight broke out. Well, some people who have been at it for a long time viewed it as a badge of exclusion that people who had a traditional book deal had. And on the other end of the spectrum, some people said, hey, if you publish a blog, if you write a blog regularly, you are publishing in a digital medium content that people consume, you're a published author. What does that term mean to you, or is it irrelevant at this point?
That's the question, and it's the question that I ask myself as I kind of transition out of what I would consider the traditional publishing model and what I, until relatively recently, considered traditional or being a published author. And I transition out of that mostly because there's not much money in it and there's a shit ton of risk in it. Where if your book is picked up if you are blessed enough to be picked up for publication by one of the large publishers, that is certainly not a guarantee of success. And no matter what happens to your book, whether it flies, if it flies, you're probably not going to get the credit for its success. And if it fails, your career and your ass is on the line, and you may not get another book deal out of that. So that's a risky kind of space to be in. But there's a lot of prestige, and frankly, the opportunity for realizing lifelong dreams, such as being in a Barnes and Noble. That's a big deal, and it'll change your life. Evo, you've probably seen your book at Barnes and Noble, and I cried like a baby when I saw your book there. You should have seen me when I saw mine.
I might have taken a picture with myself next to the book.
Yeah, right. So I mean, and there is a great deal of prestige there. And I think that those opportunities and that risk is disproportionate to the gains that you can snag in the e-publishing space. And I think that for me, I've kind of settled on the question isn't to me what is traditional or what is being a successful publisher, but what is success for me? And if success for me is simply making a living wage with my words, then being quote published even just throws it, that doesn't matter anymore. I mean, I'm being successful telling stories anonymously through transmedia, narratives. Nobody knows that my byline isn't on that, but I'm still entertaining lots of people, and I'm still making a living wage. So for me, I've been able to kind of process it through the filter of defining personal success and kind of working from that and where I can take my career in meaningful ways. Does that make sense?
That makes fantastic sense.
Yes,
So,
it does.
Lynette, how about you? How would you define, when will you know for yourself you are a successful published author, whatever publishing means?
And it's funny because JC and I do such completely different things. So my gauge of success is absolutely different. For me, it's not about the money, and because I make my living in other ways. JC's a wordsmith. That's what he does. This for me is secondary. So for me, like, my sign of success would be, like, if I got a speaking gig that paid a crap ton of money and they said, we want you because we read your book. Mm-hmm. Like, that for me is what writing a book is about for me. So that's kind of my gauge of success. And being asked to write other books or, basically getting business, or I don't want to say notoriety because you could create your own notoriety online. That's a given. But I think having doors opened for me that were previously closed for the sole purpose of, well, like sometimes I'll submit for speaking engagements that pay really good money, and there's a line in there that's mandatory, give us all the links to your Amazon links to where your books are published. And it's like, I don't have a book. And they're like, well, you're not eligible then. You could basically have triple PhDs and whatever. They don't even care. You don't have a book, game over. So that's kind of what it is for me.
Yeah, and the good news is now that means, here's a Word document, upload it to YouTube, or upload to Amazon.com, link.
There's your link.
Can I speak now? Yes, you're an idiot, but fine, thank you. I'll take your money.
And the most, I guess, bizarre thing is I actually got invited to speak at Book World Expo.
Yeah.
Which blows my mind, but okay, whatever.
That's fantastic. I look forward to seeing you there.
So to both of you, if I could read between the lines, it sounds like whether you're published or not is secondary to whether you're successful, and neither one of you really mentioned the medium. You clearly don't think someone has to have a paper book, and if somebody's all audio, if somebody is, doing some kind of crazy transmedia cross thing, as long as they're making content and putting it out there digitally for people to consume and making an income off of it, they're published.
Yeah, and I think that for me, once I became exposed to different forms of storytelling or different delivery mechanisms, and podcasting and podcast fiction is a prime example of that, where it is, where the narrative may be the same. I may be reading something off of a page, but the delivery mechanism delivers a unique kind of consumption experience that you don't get when you're reading that on the page because of the enunciation of the reader or whatever. Once I began to understand that each medium had specific value and told stories with strengths that the other media didn't have, I began to study those media and realize, well, why lock myself down to one? Why not embrace several? And why not figure out clever ways for them to work together? Now, that doesn't mean that traditional storytelling as we know it, the novel or television or radio or podcasting is threatened. It isn't, not at all. But this is but technology and the affordability of these storytelling tools is really so accessible that why not embrace the inevitability? It's not a trend, and digital publishing is not a trend. It is real. It is the real thing, and it's going to be with us forever now.
The thing they're both drinking beer, so I'm going to jump in. The thing that I find amazing is that I like to ask people questions when I see they have food or drink in their mouth. That's kind of my thing.
Smart.
Kind of what I was thinking about when JC was talking about that is that the people, we'll say in air quotes, that kind of look at this as wanting to pass it over, let's just wait till it dies down and people get bored with that and they want Dead Trees again exclusively or whatever. Those are what I'm finding are some of the people that they want that book. They don't understand digital publishing. They don't validate it. So while internally or in our larger professions, anybody that's either primary or secondarily in a profession that are publishers of any kind, bloggers, journalists online, and podcasters, any of us, writers, we see the value of digital publishing. We see where we cut out the middleman. We see where we control the content ourselves. We see all of these benefits. Our readers see the benefits. The outsiders, who probably still make up the bulk of, I don't know, the universe, don't see it as being valid necessarily, at least in my experience. So when they're kind of waiting for things to pass over, when I hit that one wall of that speaking engagement that I tried to get, and they were like, we love you, but you don't have a book. And even then they didn't want a digital book because they're like, we need something to sell in the back of the room. And I was like, okay, I get that. And I literally thought, I'm like, let me just take my last 100 blog posts, take it to Kinko's, print it, there you go, there's your book. Like, I could have actually put that together in a Kindle format, put it up there, and they would have been happy. But I'm like, how is writing on that format of a blog, when the words are the same, any different than putting it in a different format? And they couldn't answer my question. So, you know, to us, writing is writing, publishing is publishing, but to the outsiders, I think it's still very different, which, like I said, with the nonfiction writing, I give it 10 years before they get interested in things like what JC's doing with the transmedia or the alternate media type storytelling, where you take pieces of the story and they're different places, and it's like the choose your own ending and all of these different types of things that make it so interesting. You know, my boring world of business books doesn't have to be that way, and nobody really has taken it and exploited it to where I think it should be at this point. So.
Well, you raise an interesting concept that didn't really exist before this world we live in. Everybody's a publisher, not necessarily a book publisher, but publisher of content, right? And whether that's a blog or it's a podcast. And I think for those of us that have done this for a long time, exploring these alternate medium, if you actually were, there's definite benefit to taking content that you've produced in one medium. Your example, you had a series of blog posts that you produced, or take my medium of the past when I was writing podcasts. So I had this series of podcast audio that I could have transcribed. So I've got words, and yes, I could feed those words into Amazon.com, and out could pop an ebook, and I can be a published author as well. But in reality, what we should be doing is taking these words and then saying, okay, that was great and fine for a blog post. That was a fine interview for a podcast, but how can I take the meat of that, the content of that, and then recraft that into something else that is more likely acceptable in some sort of a book published form, and then why not take that to a video, and why not go to the next step? How can you do that? And that's the great thing that I think digital brings to the space, is that we can create one piece of content in one place, and then we can easily take that content and repurpose it in lots of other ones, so that we get the maximum number of people. That's pretty exciting to me.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and I think that with the argument of legitimacy was highly relevant 5 years ago when it comes to self-publishing, vanity press, even indie press. That is becoming less relevant, especially to content creators and savvy content creators who exactly are doing what you suggest, which is to reapportion that content in ways to attract similar but not identical audiences and market share, right, which generate more business opportunity for that author. But I mean, I think that the greatest struggle that digital creators or storytellers, be they nonfiction or fiction, who are forward thinking, are still encountering and will continue to encounter is the fact that, well, was it professionally edited? Well, I haven't heard of that editor. Can I put it on my wall? And can I sell it in the back of the room? I can't. Well, where's the value in that? And I think that the value of the tangible and the value of the analog, the touchable, is still a big part of our lives, because people like us came up touching things and experiencing our media that way. Exactly. So
you want to touch it.
so I think that that will continue to become increasingly irrelevant, but the long-term struggle then becomes, well, separating the great stuff from the mediocre or lousy stuff, and that's something that you guys have discussed at length, and that is an ongoing conversation in the creator space.
So we're running shy on time, so a final question for both of you wonderful people. One thing just in the industry, in the space, that you are really excited about, and then one personal thing that you're excited about. So JC, full license to pimp right here. Go for it.
Well, I think that the thing that I'm most excited about for the industry and for storytelling, be it nonfiction or fiction, is narrative delivered in an app, multimedia narrative delivered in an app. So this is not the Kindle app, and this is not the iBooks app. I see a lot of opportunity in a standalone application, be it like on your iPad or your Google device, that is kind of your all-in-one app that dynamically loads fiction, episodic fiction, photos, character bios, audio, video, whatever it may be, in a way that kind of sidesteps the gatekeepers like Kindle and the restrictions that they have on content, or Apple and the restrictions that they have in the iBook store, and instead, the creators inherit more risks because they're they're trying to build an application that does many things that an ebook reader simply doesn't do, but that empowers us to tell really interesting stories leveraging the best of all media and the web at our fingertips with the tap of a button. So that's what I'm really excited about from a future thinking perspective. From a more personal perspective, I'm really excited about this stuff that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode. Rebranding my website, starting to sell my content direct to consumers, kind of politely giving a little motion to the big people who didn't approve my sequels for publication up in New York, and instead I'll be laughing all the way to the bank because the stuff is written, the stuff is edited, and I have lots of external validation that the stuff is worthy of purchase, and so it's just going to market later this year with it.
Excellent. Lynette, same two questions for you.
Absolutely. I think what I'm most excited coming up is something that I haven't quite seen yet, but what I'm hoping for. Part of my professional background, I've been in tech for 23 years, but part of that is because I'm the token female in the tech group. It's like, oh, go teach, go teach everybody else how to do this thing. So I've done a lot of corporate training. Through that, I kind of come up with the idea that when people are presented with information, and in my case, like a nonfiction, a business book or something, you're given one point of view and one beginning, middle, end. The technology allows us to have an adaptive experience. So I'm looking forward to somebody that comes up with, hell, maybe it'll be me, adaptive content, where the same thing where you'll go through, like a story that JC writes, and you may get a different ending, or you may not find all the pieces, or you may find them all, whatever the case may be. I want to create content, nonfiction content, business book content that is adaptive to the particular reader. So when they read it in the beginning, they get one thing out of it, and when they come back 6 months later and they're more experienced or they have other questions, they get a completely different experience out of it. And you can't do that with static words on a page, digital or print. You just can't do it. I'm looking for adaptive technology that will allow me to customize the story and customize the training for every single person that takes it. Now, it's a crap ton more writing because you have to take so much more into account, but I think it's a much richer experience, and I think that you'll get more longevity out of the content if you do that. So that's kind of the things that's my forward-thinking things. That's what I'm excited about. Personally, what I'm excited about is the fact that I have to, as JC would say, shake your tail feathers soon. Because I am so not self-promotional, and when you write a book, you have to pimp yourself out, and that's so not in my DNA, and I have to do it, because then if I don't, the book doesn't sell well, and then there'll be no future opportunities externally, which would be nice, even though I'm willing to do my own, I'll write my own book, thank you. So that's kind of the thing that I'm looking forward to is this challenge that I've put in front of myself that all summer I have to kind of pimp my book out, so that'll be new to me.
Well, if I know Hutch and I know Hutch, he would not say shake your tail feathers. He would say shake your ass.
Yeah, you're
Ass,
right.
shake your ass.
Yes, he would. So anyhow, on that note, special thanks, JC, Lynette. Appreciate you guys being here on our inaugural Books and Beer Hangout. For those of you at home, thank you very much for attending this. I'm Ivo Terra. My partner right over here is Jeff Moriarty. Together we are ePublish Unum. You can check us out at epublishunum.com. And we do this on Thursdays, and we will see you again next week. Ciao.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.